Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. We've been looking into some new approaches for fighting cancer, and we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah.
So we've got some articles about clinical trials,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got some pretty cutting-edge preclinical research as well.
Absolutely.
So why don't we jump right into those clinical trials first and see what we've got?
Sounds good. So many different things being researched right now. It's incredible.
Yeah.
One trial from Korea is combining two therapies for advanced prostate cancer.
Oh, this is the one that uses radioligand therapy and Keytruda together, right?
That's the one.
And that targets PSMA,
Yes,
which is found on prostate cancer cells.
exactly. It's the first trial in Korea that's combining this type of radioligand therapy with an immune checkpoint inhibitor,
Wow.
attacking it from two different directions.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. The radioligand delivers radiation directly to the tumor, and then Keytruda helps the immune system recognize and destroy those cancer cells more effectively.
So it's like a 1-2 punch.
Ex-
Now, this one is based on a previous trial that just used the radioligand therapy on its own right.
That's right. So that trial's nearing completion in Korea using lutetium-177DGUL, and if the results are good, it could lead to a phase 2 combination study in the U.S.
Okay. Well, that sounds really promising.
Okay.
Let's move on to another clinical trial for prostate cancer. This one is for metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer.
Right.
And it's looking at Opaganib and Darolutamide.
Yes. Darolutamide is also known as Nubeqa,
Oh, okay.
and this trial is trying to solve the problem of resistance to ARPIs.
ARPI.
Yes.
Androgen receptor pathway inhibitors.
Okay.
They're often used to treat prostate cancer, but a lot of patients develop a resistance to them, and that makes the treatment less effective.
And so that's where Opaganib comes in.
Exactly. It targets a totally different pathway called the sphingosine kinase 2 pathway.
Okay.
So combining Opaganib with darolutamide, they hope that they can overcome this resistance and help those patients with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer. It seems like they're being really precise with who they choose for the trial, too.
Oh, yeah. They're using a biomarker test called PC-Pro to figure out which people would most likely benefit from this combination.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about another treatment for metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer.
Okay.
This one is looking at RIPTACSEs.
Regulated induced proximity targeting chimeras.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is.
So what are RIPTACS?
Well, they're a really new way to treat cancer.
Okay.
They target cancer cells specifically and then bring together two proteins,
Okay.
a tumor-specific protein and an essential effector protein.
Got it.
And that interaction disrupts stuff inside the cancer cell
Okay.
and basically makes it die.
So the RIPTAC that they're studying is called HLD0915.
Yes, and it can be taken orally.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and in preclinical studies, it's been working better than enzalutamide, which is one of the standard treatments for prostate cancer now.
Well, hopefully the human trials go well, too.
We'll see.
All right, let's move on to another treatment for prostate cancer. This one is for both localized and metastatic.
Okay, this is ACE232.
Right.
And it works by inhibiting CYP11A1.
And what is that?
It's an enzyme that helps make androgens, and androgens are hormones that fuel the growth of prostate cancer cells.
Oh, I see.
So if you can block the production of androgens, you can slow down or stop that tumor growth.
So it basically cuts off the fuel supply.
Yeah, exactly. And ACE232 can also help overcome resistance to ARPs.
Really?
Especially resistance caused by certain mutations or amplifications of the androgen receptor.
So it's attacking that resistance in a different way.
Right.
Interesting. So the FDA has already approved a phase 1 trial for ACE232, and it's for patients with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer, and they're planning to start recruiting in April 2025.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's move on to another clinical trial. This one is looking at Nectin-4.
All right.
It's a protein on the surface of lots of cancer cells.
Including prostate cancer cells.
Right, and the therapy that they're testing is CRB701,
Yes, an antibody-drug conjugate.
or ADC.
Yeah,
I have those.
they're like guided missiles.
Oh.
They deliver this powerful payload right to the cancer cells and try to minimize the damage to healthy cells.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so CRB701 targets Nectin-4, attaches to it, and then releases that toxic payload right into the cancer cell.
So it's like a seek and destroy mission.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. And the results from this trial are pretty amazing so far.
They are.
They've seen a 40% overall response rate and a 73% disease control rate.
Across all kinds of different tumor types.
That's incredible.
And prostate cancer, too, of course.
And it's been pretty safe so far, right?
Yeah, most of the side effects have been mild.
That's great. So CRB-701 is also being investigated for cervical cancer as well.
Yes. The FDA has given it fast-track designation for relapsed or refractory metastatic cervical cancer, which means that the drug development and review process is going to be faster.
That's great news for those patients.
Definitely.
Before we move on from Nectin-4 completely, there are 2 other therapies that target this protein that are in a phase 1A/1B trial right now.
Yes, LY4-05-2031 and LY4-101174.
And those are ADCs as well.
Yes.
So it looks like Nectin-4 is becoming a big target for cancer treatment research.
It is. It's really interesting to see.
So we've covered a lot of different clinical trials here,
We have.
but we're not done yet.
Not even close.
We still have to talk about all of the groundbreaking preclinical research that you've shared.
Yeah, let's get into that.
But first, what are your thoughts on these trials so far?
You know, I am amazed by how creative these new therapies are. I mean,
Yeah.
they're really targeted, and they're designed to work really well and minimize those side effects.
It seems like we're moving toward a more personalized approach to treating cancer.
Absolutely. You know, where the therapies are tailored to each patient's tumor?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So of all of these clinical trials that we've discussed, which one stood out to you the most? It's really hard to pick just one.
I know, right?
They all seem so promising.
Yeah.
But that trial, using the Radioligand and Keytruda together, really stood out to me.
Yeah,
Combining those therapies seems like such a smart strategy.
I agree. And, you know, that trial's interesting because it came from that earlier trial that just used the radioligand by itself.
Right.
And it just shows how research builds on itself,
Yeah.
you know, leading to new and even better treatments.
Like every time we learn something new, it opens up a new path.
Yeah.
Speaking of new paths, let's talk about some of that preclinical research that you mentioned.
Okay.
So these studies aren't being tested in humans yet, but they give us a glimpse into what might be possible in the future.
Exactly. And one of the coolest things I have seen is using CRISPR gene editing technology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to actually target cancer indirectly.
Oh, this is the research from UCSF, where they're taking white fat cells and turning them into beige fat cells.
That's the one. So they're using CRISPR to change those white fat cells,
okay.
turning them into calorie-burning beige fat cells, and then they implant those near the tumors in mice.
And those modified fat cells basically starve the tumor.
Yeah, they outcompete the tumor cells for the nutrients.
Right.
And the results have been amazing so far.
Wow.
Like big tumor shrinkage across multiple different types of cancer.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So they're using the body's own systems to fight the cancer.
Exactly.
I mean, and the fact that they could maybe even use this with liposuction and fat grafting,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
It's really cool. It's amazing how creative these scientists are.
Yeah.
Another preclinical study that we have is about a compound called Adhibin,
Oh, yeah.
and it has some crazy anti-metastatic potential.
Yeah. Adhibin targets a signaling pathway that's involved in how cells move.
Yeah, it's the ROIG-TPE signaling pathway,
Right.
and it's super important for cancer to spread.
So adhibin basically paralyzes the tumor cells?
Yeah, it stops them from moving and attaching to other tissues.
And that's all without being toxic to the body.
That's the crazy part. Yeah, in those preclinical studies, Adhibin stopped the cell migration in its tracks, but it didn't hurt the healthy cells.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the last area of preclinical research that we have is all about repurposing drugs.
Yeah.
Using drugs that are already approved for other conditions
Yes.
to treat cancer.
Exactly. It's like we have all of this knowledge and resources already.
Yeah.
Why not use it, right?
Exactly.
So by looking at gene expression data,
Okay.
researchers can figure out which drugs that are already out there might also have anti-cancer effects.
So we're basically treasure hunting in our medicine cabinet.
Pretty much. And they use all of these computer models
Okay.
to analyze tons of data and find those matches between existing drugs and specific cancer types.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And it could also make treatment more personalized.
Right.
And this approach would make developing new cancer drugs a lot faster and cheaper.
Well, that would be a game changer for sure. So we've talked about clinical trials with some really innovative therapies on preclinical research with some totally new ways to target cancer. What do you think is the most important thing to take away from all of this?
Well, to me, it's just how many different approaches are being explored.
Yeah.
Researchers are attacking cancer from every angle,
Yeah.
and that gives me a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah. It really is inspiring to see so much progress happening. New therapies and trials, research happening in the lab, and then we have this possibility of repurposing drugs.
Yeah, and each discovery we make, gives us a better understanding of how cancer works,
Yeah.
which could lead to even better therapies down the road.
It's like we're putting together a puzzle.
Yeah,
Each new piece helps us see the bigger picture.
absolutely.
So of all this research that we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
what gives you the most hope for the future of treating cancer?
I think it's the dedication of the people doing the research. The researchers and clinicians around the world who are constantly looking for new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. It's really inspiring.
And it's not just about, finding new drugs or therapies.
Right.
It's about figuring out what makes cancer tick
Yeah,
so we can be more precise and personal with the treatments.
exactly. And the more we know about how cancer works, the better we can target those treatments, to attack the weak spots of each person's tumor.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
Don't give up hope.
Yeah.
Cancer is a tough opponent, but we're making progress.
Yeah.
Research and innovation are moving fast,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the future looks bright.
I agree. I think the future of cancer treatment is really promising. We're getting closer to a world where cancer isn't a death sentence.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that we can manage or even cure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for explaining all of this research to us.
You're welcome.
It's been a really eye-opening deep dive.